Welcome back to Nuclear News. Let's dive through the price action and then we'll go through what happened around the world. Well, first up, the Sprott Uranium Miners ETF was up 4% last week. The S&P 500 was up 1.43%. So we're seeing a rebound in some of these assets. Remember, we are correlated to macro. Can't ignore the macro environment. So let's go through what happened. Germany shutting down last 3 nuclear plants, relying on coal and natural gas during clean so-called energy push. Germany plunges ahead with nuclear plant shutdown despite concerns over energy supply. So they're doing what makes no sense to outside observers, right? They just had a massive energy crisis and they're shutting down their only clean, reliable source of energy and putting the reliance on dirty energy, right? So this is what would happen if the US tried to pull the exact same stunt. If the USA were to shut down its nuclear power plants, the pollution from the coal, gas, and oil that would be used to make up the generation shortfall would result in a worsening of air quality that could cause an additional 5,200 pollution-related deaths over a single year, according to a newly published study from the Massachusetts Institute of Technology. This is why countries are not abandoning nuclear power, but they're investing in nuclear power. Germany just doesn't seem tired of making mistakes and learning painful lessons. So let's see whether or not the growth and expansion of nuclear power around the world can offset this decision by Germany. Well, India's installed nuclear capacity is set to more than triple by 2031, which will more than triple the nation's demand for nuclear fuel, for uranium fuel. So just think about that for a second. India is one of the largest countries in the entire world, planning to triple their nuclear power generation and need for uranium fuel. That more than offsets the decision by Germany. Denmark offers modular nuclear reactor expertise to the Philippines. And if the expansion of nuclear power around the world isn't enough to offset Germany, you have NASA and the Department of Energy asking this question with Westinghouse. How do we create enough power to live on the moon sustainably? That's something we're working on for NASA and the Department of Energy. We'll talk about nuclear energy off-world at Space Foundation. So these are the types of questions being asked by the most powerful organizations in the world. Data center, hydrogen fuel hub powered by small nuclear reactor to bring more than 2,000 new jobs to Surrey. Surrey County will be home to the United States' first of its kind combination data center and hydrogen fuel hub that's expected to generate 2,000 to 3,000 new jobs. A data center of carbon-free energy plants announced Wednesday. So we're seeing serious expansion, brand new use cases, still in the early stages of the big nuclear power rollout in the US. So no nuclear power and nuclear fuel investor is really worried about this news from Germany, because for every step back, there's like 8 steps forward in this space. But let's focus on the supply of uranium. As a commodity investor, all that matters is supply demand. Well, let's take a look at this chart from the US Energy Information Administration. So sources of uranium for US nuclear power plants going from 1950 to 2021. We can see in the blue line, domestic concentrate production, 0, right? Nothing is coming from the US. And then US power plant purchases from domestic suppliers, very, very low. So we're clearly entirely dependent on imports from primarily Russia. That's why the US is taking such serious steps to build a domestic supply, which is going to be expensive and it will cause the price of the fuel to go up. So if the US and Western countries are relying on Russia, then the supply is absolutely not secure. And so let's just take a look where we are at in the production of uranium supply. Well, it's still extremely tight. Just take a look at the uranium exploration budgets, right? And so we can see in this chart from the Oregon Group, demand for nuclear power is driving the best fundamentals we've ever seen for the nuclear fuel market. We agree, but production and money going into production is still extremely low. Look at where it was historically. Massive amounts of money flowing into the space. Well, that hit rock bottom and it's barely ticked up. And so you can see Canada putting the most money into it. Canada in dark green, Africa in light green, barely restarting. And then the other countries nowhere close to where they've been in the past. This pointing to a tight supply. To achieve, the Department of Energy's projected 200 gigawatts of new U.S. capacity requires increasing uranium mining and milling by 110 million plus pounds per year, building 4 more massive conversion plants and increasing enrichment by 6 times, adding 30 million SWUs. So obviously still positive supply-demand fundamentals for the nuclear fuel. We have projected massive demand, super tight supply. It's just the reality of what is going on. And then we have the US's so-called allies like France cooperating with China. Cooperation agreements in the field of nuclear energy have been signed between China and France during a state visit by French President Emmanuel Macron to Beijing. The latest agreements between China General Nuclear and EDF build on 40 years of previous cooperation between the two countries. And so FrancisMacron urges Europe to reduce dependency on the US, stay away from Taiwan conflict. And so the US has its work cut out for itself with its allies fleeing. And so the US better get its act together in terms of shoring up its domestic supply. We covered last week and the weeks prior. Politicians realize this. They're scrambling. We have a tight supply, massive demand, staying on top of this market. This discussion is for informational purposes only. Please consult a certified financial planner when making any decisions about investing. And do your own research before making any decisions. Investments are risky, and you can lose lots of money in them.